Understanding Auditing, Collusion, and the Fictitious Payee. This is Ken Boyd, owner of St. Louis Test Preparation. You see our email address listed here and our phone number. You'll get our website at the end of this video. This is our second video on auditing, and we had mentioned that the best way to learn auditing is through examples and stories. And this case study, called The Bartender and the Accounting Manager, is based on a true story. Here's our story. Jim owns JT's Sports Bar. He has many employees that work for the establishment for many years, and one of those people is Chris, who works as a manager. Over the years, Chris has performed well and has always been reliable, so we start with a trusted employee. Jim decides to hire an office manager. Chris, his existing employee, refers Jim to Paul, who's an experienced accountant. Paul's job is to pay bills, collect receivables, and generate financial statements. Jim hopes that this plan will free him up to do more marketing. He decides he will continue to reconcile the restaurant checking account himself. Here's part of the process of dealing with vendors who sell things to the restaurant. Jim, the owner, reviews a detailed monthly report of expenses. After a few months, he notices that his meat and chicken purchases are increasing faster than expected. He checks the detail in his accounting system. Over the past few months, JT's has purchased a large amount of product from national meat suppliers. Jim has dealt with the same supplier for several years, but the company name does not sound quite right. He checks his contacts and confirms that the correct name is National Meat Products, not Suppliers, so a company name that's very similar. Next, the process of approving invoices for payment. After coming across the discrepancy, Jim, the owner, starts to review invoices that were paid to national meat suppliers. Here's the company's process. The managers create purchase orders for supplies needed at the restaurant. For example, we need more chicken and fish. When deliveries arrive at JT's, the manager on duty reviews the invoice and agrees the quantity and the price and other information to the purchase order that was created. In other words, does what was shipped, what came in the door, match what we ordered? The manager initials the invoice as evidence that the goods were received. Jim, the owner, reviews the invoice, the bill, and the purchase order, we got what we ordered, before signing the check for payment. He notices that Chris, the manager, approved each invoice and purchase order for the national meat supplier's purchase. Now to the bank account. Since the restaurant has been busy, it's been several months. Jim is several months behind reconciling the account using the bank statements. Typical of most businesses, and in our own personal lives, we get behind. His bank provided photocopies of checks with the statement. Jim notices 5 checks paid in the prior month to national meat suppliers, something that would have caught his attention had he reconciled the account sooner. That stood out to him. The problem is that he didn't reconcile the account on a timely basis. So he gets his accountant involved. Jim takes all of this information to his outside accounting firm. After more work, the accountants find that National Meat Suppliers does not exist. It's a fictitious company, one that was made up, with an address and a bank account controlled by 2 of Jim's employees, Chris, the manager, and Paul, the office manager, the accountant. We said in our prior video that fraud is willful intent to deceive, and that's what occurred here. Chris was generating purchase orders for goods that were not needed. Chris and Paul would generate a fake invoice, which Chris would approve. No goods were received. Chris just initialed it as if goods came in the door. Paul would forward both documents, the invoice and the purchase order, to the owner, Jim, and Jim would sign the check. Because the company name was very similar to a real company, Jim, the owner, didn't notice the difference and signed the check anyway. Chris and Paul shared the money paid on the fake invoice. That's the end of our part 2 on auditing. You'll find part 3 on YouTube. For live tutoring, chat sessions, including work on the CPA exam, we do test prep and tutoring for the CPA exam. You can go to our website, www.stltest.net. There's our email and our phone number. We'll see you next time.